What's that sound? It's for amusement only, the EM and Bingo Pinball Podcast.
Welcome back to For Amusement Only. This is Nick Baldridge. Tonight, continuing our chronological discussion of Bally bingos, we're skipping over Golden Gate and Silver Sails and Bounty, which was produced in 1963, because those were previously covered. And tonight we talk about 1965's Border Beauty. Now, a couple things are interesting about Border Beauty. First of all, it's the first Bally bingo that was produced in a year and a half. And that's because the legal climate for bingos had gotten rather harsh here in the United States. And so Border Beauty is also interesting because it's an entirely new type of bingo game. Instead of the 25-hole playfield that everyone had come to know and love, or at least appreciate and enjoy, now players were forced to learn a whole new layout, 20 holes. And because the playfield was only 20 holes, the bingo card on the Backglass is also not square. It is 5x4. So, because inline scoring doesn't really make sense, on a typical bingo pinball machine, you deposit your money, it lifts a ball to the shooter lane, and at that point you have a decision. Do you want to go with the default settings on the machine or try to improve your odds or add features to move numbers or do other interesting things on the machine before shooting your ball? If you do, you have to insert additional money. So these are multi-coin machines. Well, Border Beauty is no exception. However, because the bingo card itself is so vastly reduced, an entire row has gone away, Bally had to come up with a different way for you to score. So, what they did is completely remove inline scoring altogether. And if you've heard me talk about magic screen games and the sections that are revealed, when you move the screen from the normal bingo card position to these fancy shapes which are cut out with different colored sections, that's exactly what these 20-hole game backglasses look like. Your bingo card is made up of 4 different colored sections: red, green, yellow, and blue. And rather than having to get 3, 4, or 5 in a row, your goal is to get 3, 4, or 5 anywhere in the section. But there's a catch. On your 25-hole games with section scoring, like your magic screens, 3, 4, or 5 anywhere in the section is good and you will win. On the Mystic Lines games, like Border Beauty here, if you get 3, 4, or 5 in the section, your position does matter. There's a single position called the star zone, and this position, this particular number, is drawn differently than the rest of the numbers in that section. It's white instead of, say, blue, but there is a blue star in the corner. This star zone doesn't count for anything unless it's the 5th ball in the section. And so, if you get 2 other balls in the section and then you drop a 3rd in the star zone, you don't win anything. You have to sink the additional 2 balls in that blue section in order for the blue to score with the star zone included. So, bingo players at the time, from my understanding, didn't really enjoy this very much, because not only are your chances reduced, by removing the ability to have inline scoring, but you're also reducing them further by taking away one number in each section. And so you go from 5 in a section to 4. Now that 5th is a very nice thing if you can get it, but otherwise it's just in the way. And not only that, it takes up playfield real estate too. And so Bally thought about this as well. And here's what they came up with. There needs to be another moving numbers feature. But it can't work like the magic screens, and it can't work like the magic lines, and it can't work like the magic squares. It's got to be something entirely unique. And so what they decided is that they would have what are called mystic lines. And the mystic lines are made up of 3 different individually controlled buttons. You have A, B, and C. And these will light in sequence. So if you're playing for features, then if the machine awards you advances on your mystic lines, first it will light A, and then eventually it'll light B, and eventually it'll light C. And what this does, after you shoot your first ball, you can push the buttons on the footrail, which are arranged B, A, C, in order to match the letters on the backglass, B, A, C. Letter B actually shifts the leftmost 2 columns. They will swap positions. Letter A will move the center column up and down 2 digits. And letter C will swap the rightmost 2 columns. And so with this ability, you're able to move every single number on the backglass, but there are several catches. You probably already know them. Most of the time, you only want to move a single number. And so if you don't happen to be in column A, then you wind up moving all of your numbers, even if you don't want to. Well, that's assuming that you press the button to do it, and you have the feature awarded, but let's make that assumption. The other limitation is column A. Column A is not very helpful in certain circumstances because there are no star zones. And so if you land in a star zone, it's going to either be in columns for B or columns for C. And it's handy because you can swap back and forth, and when you swap, those star zones are not aligned directly with their neighbor, and so it will then be in a different colored section. But unfortunately, as I was saying earlier, it'll be in a completely different section, which may score a completely different amount, assuming that you can even get 3 in that particular section. So let's talk about how it scores. This game has the first example of quadruple deck scoring, and that is triple deck scoring with the added feature of blue. So triple deck scoring is individually controlled odds for red, green, and yellow. Quadruple deck scoring adds blue. Now, the interesting thing there is that the blue and the green odds are actually tied together, and so when one steps, the other steps as well. So in this way, there's really no such thing as quadruple deck scoring. It's really triple deck scoring with an added color. So the amount of replays you can earn goes from 4 for 3 in a section, 16 for 4 in a section, and 75 for 5 in a section, all the way up to 192 for 3 in a section, 480 for 4 in a section, and 600 for 5 in a section. This game also has a feature that will allow it to double any one color, which is pretty darn handy. So in that way, the maximum payout for a single color is $1,200. And yes, I did just say for a single color, because technically you can win in more than one color utilizing the mystic lines. It's very difficult to do, but it is possible. By default, the game will lock you out of moving the mystic lines before shooting your fourth ball. At random intervals, it may award you the chance to move your mystic lines before shooting your fifth ball, and if you're really lucky, after shooting your fifth ball. This game also has rollover buttons on the playfield. On the left-hand side, about 3/4 of the way down, you have your yellow rollover. And if it's lit and you hit it with a ball, it will automatically jump your time tree to before fifth. On the right-hand side, its twin is red. And the red rollover, when lit and hit, will light after fifth. Now, those worthless star zones I was mentioning are actually used for 2 different features in the game. And these have nothing to do with the traditional scoring. But randomly, the machine will light that if you get balls in each of the 4 star zones, then the machine will pay either 300 replays or 600 replays. And it's a very good feeling if you can do that. However, it is very difficult to achieve. Usually it's easier to get that before getting your full complement of mystic lines, at least in my experience. And even if you did have the full complement, your time tree runs out before you shoot your fourth ball, and therefore you may be kind of out of luck. Now, the second feature that the star zones are useful for is your red letter game. It's back, and this time it's different, but also kind of similar. In this iteration, your red letter game is actually tied to the red odds instead of the green. And this is pretty handy. It's a lot easier to remember. But you either have to get 3 balls in the star zones to start your red letter game, or just 2, and the machine will light either at random. Your red letter game, for those who do not recall, is a second guaranteed game, which is absolutely free. You don't have to put any money in to start this game, but it will start immediately upon search. And when it starts, all your balls drop, and the machine starts ticking up your odds and features based on the letter that was highlighted in red in the word border. And for those of you who have been listening for a while and have heard me talk about these OK games, you'll notice that they all have 6 letters in the name, which is the red letter name. In this case, it's border. So let's talk about the artwork. The artwork, as one may imagine, is centered around Mexico. A very stereotypical Mexico, which is likely incredibly offensive. However, you've got 3 women at the bottom who are hanging out by a low stone wall. And on the other side are men dressed in full sombreros and tasseled outfits that are either yellow or green. These men are on horseback. Actually, one is leading the horse. And in the distance, you can see some more men down by a river. Across the river, you can see lush greenery leading up to mountains in the distance. A beautiful scene. The sky is yellow with blue clouds. It's likely just after sunrise. The cabinet is gray, and it has red zigzags which are above a white line with red circles. In the valleys of the zigzags are white circles. And this pattern extends up to the head, but on the head there's a second red zigzag underneath of the white line. And there are also yellow circles in the valleys of that red zigzag. The playfield has the women from the Backglass in the front, and a couple of mariachi players in the near distance. And in the far distance you have some more men in sombreros riding horses and fording a river. I happen to like the playfield artwork best of all on this game, if I was choosing between the cabinet, Backglass, and playfield. Now, a couple of features which I glossed over, but I realized I shouldn't have. This game has the extra ball feature, and that means that you can have up to 8 chances to get your 5 in a section. However, you have to pay additional money in order to get these extra balls. And therefore, after you've shot your first 5 balls, you have to push the yellow button to put it in extra ball mode, and then insert money, and the game will search in the extra ball mode, trying to find a chance to step up 3 times in order to get you your first extra ball. And then it has to step up an additional 3 times to get your second, and 3 for third. This game also has Pick-a-Play. Pick-a-Play are 3 colored buttons on the front of the cabinet, which you can press in order to try for an advance in features and odds if you press the red button, features only if you press the green button, and odds only if you press the blue button. Playing your green or blue buttons gives you a slight advantage to advances in features or odds over playing your red button. Well, that's all for tonight. Thank you very much for listening. My name again is Nick Baldridge. You can reach me at foramusementonlypodcast@gmail.com, or you can call me on the Bingos line. That's 724-BINGOS1, 724-246-4671. You can listen to us on iTunes, Stitcher, Pocket Casts, via RSS, on Facebook, on Twitter at Bingo Podcast. You can follow me on Instagram, also at Bingo Podcast. Or you can listen to us on our website, which is foramusementonly.libsyn.com. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll talk to you next time.